All right, let's talk about JavaScript. It's way more than just a programming language, right? It's basically the nervous system of your browser. It's what turns a static, boring page into a dynamic, living application. We're going to look at how it got so ridiculously fast, and then what we can actually do with all that speed to control everything the user sees.
So here's the game plan. We'll start with the JavaScript speed wars, super important for understanding where we are today. Then we'll dive into the toolbox this unlocked, controlling the browser window, wrangling web forms, listening for what users are doing, and yeah, we'll even get into some of JavaScript's weirder but powerful quirks.
You know, to really appreciate why JavaScript is such a big deal now, you have to understand just how painfully slow it used to be. And I'm not talking just a little bit sluggish. I mean, by today's standards, it was basically unusable. 46 seconds, almost a full minute. Back in 2009, that's how long it took Internet Explorer 7 to run a standard set of JavaScript tests. You could literally get up, walk to the kitchen, and make a cup of coffee while a script was running. This wasn't just bad performance, it was a roadblock to innovation, and it started a war. And here is the result of that war. Just look at this. On the left, you've got IE in 2009 taking nearly 46,000 milliseconds. Then, fast forward just 3 years, and on the right, IE9 clocks in at 141 milliseconds. That is not just an improvement, that's a revolution. We're talking over 300 times faster, and it happened for one simple reason. Browser makers finally started competing on speed.
And this wasn't just an IE story, not at all. Everyone jumped into this fight. Firefox, Safari, they all saw these incredible massive gains. And the new kid on the block, Chrome, was competitive right out of the gate. The entire web was being reforged in this fire of performance. And just when things started to settle down on the desktop, guess what? The whole war started all over again. But this time, the new battlefield was mobile. All that amazing work to make JavaScript fly on powerful desktop computers had to be completely rethought for the tiny little processors we carry around in our pockets. And you can see exactly how that played out here on mobile. At this point, performance became this really tight dance between hardware and software. The iPhone 5S is leading the pack here not just because of a fast JavaScript engine, but because Apple controlled the entire stack, from the chip to the OS. Performance was no longer just about code, it was about the actual silicon it was running on. So all of that speed, what did it actually buy us? Well, it unlocked an incredibly powerful toolbox for manipulating the browser directly. This is where JavaScript really gets its power to shape your entire online experience. Think of this as the blueprint of the browser from JavaScript's point of view. Right at the very top, you have the window, and everything else, the document, the forms, the history, it's all nested inside. If you want to control the page, you have to know this map. So at the absolute top of everything is the window object. You can kind of think of it as the God object of the browser. It represents the browser tab itself. Every other tool you use to interact with the page is ultimately a child of this window object. Now, let's be honest about some of these tools. Take window.open, the function to pop open a new browser window. It comes with a ton of options to control things like the toolbar, menu bar, and status bar. The reality? Modern browsers ignore almost all of them. It's for security and user experience reasons. You can still set the width and height, but the days of creating these heavily customized stripped-down windows are pretty much over. And speaking of browser history, here's a funny little quirk for you. If you ask most modern browsers what their name is using navigator.appname, they'll tell you they're Netscape. Yes, that Netscape. It's this bizarre historical fossil left over from the first browser wars, basically a ghost in the machine kept around just for compatibility's sake. Okay, this concept is absolutely critical, and it's a huge source of bugs if you don't get it. Simple data, like a number, gets passed by value. That means the function you pass it to gets a fresh copy. But complex things, like objects and arrays, are passed by reference. The function gets a pointer back to the original thing. If you mess this up, you will accidentally change data when you don't mean to. All right, let's apply this stuff to something we do every single day, working with web forms. JavaScript is the magic that makes them interactive and smart. So here's a dead simple Beatle picker form. You've got radio buttons for your favorite Beatle and a text box for your favorite song. The user makes their choices, types something in, that's the input. And when they click the button, our JavaScript reaches right into those form elements, grabs the values, and displays them. In this case, just in a simple alert box. It's a really clear, direct line from user input to programmatic output, and it's all happening right there in the browser instantly. But it's not just about reading data. JavaScript can also validate it.
So before that form data is ever sent to a server, your script can check if fields are empty, if an email address looks right, or if a phone number is in the correct format. This gives the user instant feedback and cuts down on a ton of bad data.
And this brings us to the very heart of interactivity. See, JavaScript doesn't just run and then stop. It sits there, in the background, just listening, waiting to react to what you do.
And the process is fundamentally simple. It's a three-step dance. First, you target an element on the page. Second, you tell JavaScript what to listen for, a click, a mouse movement, a key press. And third, you give it a function to run when that event happens. Target, listen, react. That's the core loop of all web interactivity. And you can stack these listeners on top of each other. Here, we're tracking when the mouse moves over the document, when it moves out, and when it clicks. Each action fires its own event, creating this real-time log of what the user is doing. This is the foundation for any rich, interactive experience. All right, for our last section, let's look at the language itself. JavaScript is famous for being incredibly flexible and powerful, but that power comes with some quirks that can trip up even really experienced developers. Here's a classic JavaScript gotcha: double equals versus triple equals. Double equals is loose. It tries to be helpful and convert types, so the string 1 does equal the number 1. But triple equals is strict. It checks both the value and the type, so they're not equal. The takeaway? Unless you have a very, very specific reason, just always use triple equals. It will save you so many headaches. And here's just a little taste of JavaScript's raw power from matching patterns. This thing that looks like line noise is a single regular expression that validates a password. It checks for a number, a lowercase letter, an uppercase letter, and a minimum length, all in one go. It's dense, it's a little intimidating, but it is incredibly efficient. So we'll end on this question. How do you really judge a programmer's grasp of this language? Forget trivia. Ask them to explain a deep concept, like closures. Ask them to talk you through the difference between using map versus a for-each loop. But most importantly, ask them for a story about a nasty performance bug they hunted down and fixed. Their answer will tell you everything you need to know.